Hey guys, my lesson is on comma usage. I will be sharing my screen because I did do it on a PowerPoint. Okay. Let me just press present. Okay. Oops, sorry, I don't know why I did that. Okay, let's begin. So, what is a comma? According to the Cambridge Dictionary, a comma is used in writing to separate parts of a sentence showing a slight pause or to separate the various single items in a list. So, how do we know when it is appropriate to use a comma? When there are variation of words that more than likely will need a comma in the sentence. If you combine two full sentences with a subject and a verb that have a conjunction, you most definitely will likely need a comma. So for example, some of these conjunction words are and, but, or, nor, so, yet, etc. If you begin a sentence with an introductory phrase, so for example, although, after, when, if you include a series of nouns in a sentence, or when there is a quotation in the sentence. So there's something known as a dependent clause. So according to Purdue OWL, the definition of a dependent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and verb, but does not express a complete thought. A dependent clause cannot be a sentence. There are certain words that will indicate when it is a dependent clause and that a comma is most likely needed. So some of these words are, once again, although, as, if, because, before, whether. So now there's something known as an independent clause. Stated by Purdue OWL, an independent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and verb and expresses a complete thought. An independent clause is a sentence, which is a difference between a dependent clause. A dependent clause is not a full thought, so it can never be a full sentence, whereas independent clause is a full sentence. So some words that will also indicate that it is an independent clause sentence are furthermore, however, nevertheless, and therefore. So although a dependent and independent clause are two different things, they can still be connected within a sentence. So you can connect an independent clause with a dependent clause in a sentence. When a dependent clause comes first, a comma is usually required. Purdue OWL says there are subordinating conjunctions to connect an independent and a dependent clause. Once again, some example that will let you know are after, before, since, until. I do think knowing these words and conjunctions are really helpful because it's less confusing when you do want to add a comma in your sentence. So where do we need a comma added? I wrote some examples down that are missing commas, and we will go over them. So there are many fun things to do in the summer, such as hiking, swimming, rock climbing, and going to the beach. I do not like eating olives, but my mom loves them. The professor told me that I was doing great, and I proved to be a helpful asset to the class. I never saw myself as one to lead, but being put in the position to do it displayed my strength. So the first sentence, we see that it has various items of a list. So we will put a comma after summer, a comma after hiking, a comma after swimming, and a comma after rock climbing. I do not like eating olives, but my mom loves them. So here we see that but is the coordinate conjunction. So it will definitely require a comma. So the comma will come after olives. The professor told me that I was doing great and I proved to be a helpful asset to the class. Once again, the coordinated conjunction is and. So we will put a comma after great. I never saw myself as one to lead, but being put in the position to do it displayed my strength. Here we go again. But is a coordinated conjunction. So we will put a comma after lead. So I did write some examples of what an independent sentence clause sentence looks like, and when it is a sentence that is followed by a dependent clause. I received a good grade on a test, So I decided to celebrate with friends. Although I was upset, I still managed to put on a smile. I studied all night because I wanted A plus. So the first sentence is just an independent clause. There is no dependent clause because it is a full thought of so, but we see that the subordinated conjunction is so it still requires a comma to come after test. Although I was upset, I still managed to put on a smile. This is a dependent clause, and we can see, oops, sorry, and we can see that although is the indicator of that, so it still requires the comma after upset. I study all night because I wanted A plus. So when an independent clause follows a independent clause, there is no need for a comma. So these are common mistakes which we usually want to avoid when we include a comma in our sentence. A comma should not separate a subject from its verb. Not using a comma before a coordinating conjunction. Using a comma to link two independent clauses without a conjunction between is known as a comma splice, which I see often when I do read the students' essays that I am the embedded tutor in. Do not use comma. Do not use a comma when the subject has two verbs. Do not use commas when you do not use commas when you end the sentence with an exclamation point or question mark. Another thing I see often when reading essays. Do not use commas to set off essential elements of the sentence, such as clauses beginning with that. Or when the dependent clause follows the independent clause, don't use a comma before or after the subordinating conjunction. So once again, this does have a dependent, like as a sentence that I showed previously. As we can see, the subordinating conjunction was because, but it does follow the independent clause, so it wasn't necessary to put a comma. So comma versus semicolon. In independent clauses with no connecting words, a semicolon should be used. In independent clauses with coordinated conjunctions, a comma should be used, which is the main difference between a semicolon and a comma. A semicolon, you do not need a coordinated conjunction, whereas a comma, there usually is one involved. If you use a conjunction and a semicolon to link main clauses, it is considered to be incorrect. You need one or the other. You cannot add both in the sentence. Semicolons can link to complete thought ideas without the need for conjunctions. So for example, my sister thought she would pass her test if she studied the night before. She was wrong. My favorite time of the season is fall, but my father loves summer. So the sentence where the semicolon is added, as you can see, there is no subordinate conjunctions, there's no coordinating conjunctions that are added in it. So we would not, there's no need for a comma, as you can see here, but is the coordinating conjunction. So once again, a comma is needed right after fall. So here are some rules that I put down for commas, although there are a lot more, but these are just the main ones. Use commas to separate 3 or more words, phrases, or clauses written in a series. Use commas to separate 2 or more coordinate adjectives that describe the same noun. Be sure to never add an extra comma between the final adjective and the noun itself. Use commas to set off all geographical names, items with dates, addresses, and titles it names, and always add a comma after adverbs that end in ly. So this concludes my lesson for comma usage, and I hope I was able to teach you guys something. Bye.